The Ready, Set, Grow podcast is sponsored by Ag Expert, software designed for Canadian agriculture. Visit them today at agexpert.ca.
Hi, my name is Joe Dales, and I'm one of the co-founders of RH Accelerator, and welcome to today's edition of the Ready, Set, Grow podcast, where we interview and have some great discussions with leaders and innovators in the agriculture and food industry. Today, we have a couple of great guests on here. We have Dave Bilson, one of our other co-founders of the RH Accelerator. Hey, Dave. And we're really happy to have Steve Bolton, the CEO of Libro, here joining us. So welcome, Steve. For the people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you what your career path has been? Becoming CEO of a great financial institution like Libro.
Yeah, well, you take me back a few years to do that. So I grew up just 20 minutes west of the city of London, in Caradoc Township.
Okay, well, you got to name the towns for all the farm folks.
Yeah, so Caradoc, between Strathroy and Mount Bridges. So Perfect. I'm the SPCI graduate, and I spent my youth, in a beef feedlot and cash crop operation. I spent a lot of time up and down the fields. And what I knew.
Did you prime tobacco in those days?
I hung kiln.
Okay.
and not the easy kilns, the ones where you have to climb up in the rafters and take it off the elevator.
The old ones.
Yeah. So I did that for a number of years. So I always had a passion for agriculture, but I just had this belief that being a primary producer was not for me. And so I went to the University of Windsor, got an undergraduate degree. I figured business was good, BCom. And then I started searching out work. And my intention originally was to become a commodities broker at some point. And the individuals in the field at that point suggested to me that you need to get some experience, young guy. And so go work at a financial institution for a few years, maybe a decade, and then come back into the sector. What I found was, where I applied was just not hiring at that point in time. And it was in the late 80s. But who was this little credit union in southwestern Ontario that was based in London, Ontario, that had strong agricultural roots, and I started my career here. The intention at that time was to spend a few years and then move on to bigger and better things. And what happened was interesting for me was I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with the culture. And as it grew, I was able to grow with it. So I started as an account manager supporting agriculture and commercial accounts with their credit needs. I a couple of years later supported the agricultural portfolio for the whole credit union at that point in time. A couple of years later, became a manager in Arkona, where I supported the whole operation in the Arkona location of Libro Credit Union today. A couple of years later, I became a VP, reporting to the CEO, and for 18 years languished as we grew the business over from about 300 million in asset size up to about 1.7 billion. And then in about 10 years ago, my predecessor decided it was time to retire, and I competed in a national search for the job and was honored to become the next head coach, president, and CEO. And so I've been doing this for the last decade, supporting Libro, supporting the work we do, but mostly supporting our member owners, customers, and helping them grow our prosperity. We did enter into the largest combination, we call it that, Joe, of our history in 2013, 2014, when United Communities Credit Union and Libro Financial Group came together to form Libro Credit Union. And that's what we have today. And at that point, we would have been about $3 billion in assets under management in portfolio. And we've grown that to about $10.5 billion today. So it's been a really interesting journey for myself. I've had I'm not sure if that was six careers all in the same spot. But what I've found is I'm still super passionate about agriculture. I'm super passionate about growing prosperity. I'm super passionate about making the communities that we serve better off. And I'm very passionate about self-employed and small business. So there you go. You asked a question, I gave you an answer. Yeah. How did I get here?
Awesome. One of the things that obviously I have a little bit of insider baseball, and Libro it recently became a certified B Corp. And I wonder, maybe for those that aren't familiar with either B Corp or cooperative movement, maybe you can speak to a little bit about kind of how Libro looks at the multi-stakeholder,
Yeah. So we offer all the same products and services that a regular financial institution would. Your local banks, whether it's a green bank or a blue bank or a red bank or a different color of blue or red. So the products and services are the same. The main difference is Libro is owned by its customers. So as a credit union, a cooperative financial institution, we have no conflict between customer value and shareholder value. So, when customers get value from us, that's what we strive for. So we are a purpose-based organization, and David, you mentioned B Corp. So that's a global movement of using business as a force for good, and it just made sense for us a number of years ago. Actually, with your nudging, frankly, I think you were the first B Corp in certainly in London. I'm not sure about Southwestern Ontario, but you would have been very pioneering at that time, and you gave us a nudge. And our view was it made a lot of sense. And so when you can use business as a force for good, you still need to provide value to the customer. You still need to provide, be profitable. You need to be sustainable. But how you go about doing that is where we are today, and we're happy to be a B Corporate. We actually are pretty proud of it. We're a living wage employer. We think people are really important to support the economy, and we make that statement pretty proudly that we're going to pay our people a living wage so that they can afford to put groceries on their table, good groceries, to support the agricultural sector and live in a home that suits them. So part of the whole mix of the organization where I spend my time is we don't. I'll be honest, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about B Corp. We spend more time thinking about our purpose to grow prosperity in Southwestern Ontario and the pillars that sort of undermine everything we do than B Corp itself. B Corp helps us tell the story and gives us a third-party score as to how we're doing, which we're very proud of.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a universal theme I've heard is, the primary thing is using business as a force for good or to try to make change. And I thought it might be helpful to people to kind of, I know some people probably banking cooperatives or financial institutions, community groups, but, if you haven't really thought through the process of what makes Libro different, I think, I'm an owner and I always enjoy the profit distributions that we get. So it's kind of fun to kind of see those land in the account every now and again. So I just wanted to follow up, too, when you mentioned agriculture, where does Libro play in the agricultural field? Is it just in Southwestern Ontario? Is it Ontario-wide? And kind of how does Libro show up in the agricultural community?
I would just say our roots are full of agriculture. So the organization today is made up of, as best as we can account for, about 43 organizations that over time combined and the last big one was in 2014. And a lot of those organizations had roots in agriculture. So the organization that I started with initially, Libro Financial Group, was Dutch Catholic farmers that came over from Holland that could not get money, and they formed a credit union. So a lot of credit unions were formed because of a social purpose, a like-minded group that couldn't do something, and they needed this cooperative financial institution to help them. The Woodsley Credit Union down in Essex County was farmers. So the agricultural roots run deep in this place. We are the largest lender today of any credit union in agriculture, primary production. So we have about $1 billion in primary production on loan to farmers that are growing food for all of us. And it's not small business anymore. It's big business. It's always been big business, but I think the farmers always knew that, but I'm not sure everybody else knew that, the other 98% of the population. But it's big business. It's capital intensive and it takes a lot of money. And so we have a core competency in that. And how we go about that is maybe a little bit differently. But it's easy for us to start making decisions because food accessibility is one of our pillars, and employment is one of our pillars, and housing is one of our pillars, and financial literacy has to be because we're a financial institution. But when you think about employment and food accessibility, agriculture fits really nice in sweet spot. Farmers create jobs. The value chain from the inputs into agriculture and the outputs from agriculture into food and other products. Creates jobs. And so we're happy to play in that field and keep that competency here. The investments in things like the Grove, for example, at Western Fair, supporting the training program that came out of that initiative, was easy for us to make decisions on. I think when Steve from the Small Business Center approached us about a regional piece with Kapil from the LEDC, they were surprised at the speed that we said yes to. And all I did was move it to the group that would normally make that decision. And they were right on board because it aligned to our pillar, it aligned to agriculture, and it aligned to small business and startups. So making them better off, growing prosperity, back to all that.
Thanks for sharing that, because I kind of knew, but I didn't realize, some of the history of the companies that have become Libro. And yeah, it's a wonderful legacy. And I love those stories of farmers coming together to get stuff done and persevering, for years and years and years, and now it's an institution that they can be absolutely proud of, and you have a great legacy there. So, yeah, we really appreciated you being involved with the Grove. We're involved with Western Fair, and it's kind of the same similar culture and DNA, and everybody's coming together. We're pretty interested in innovation and jobs and agri-food sector similar. And I saw recently that the Emerton Fund has been launched. Can you share a little bit of that story? Because I think people are interested, and it's starting to emerge. And that's a pretty exciting story as well.
Yeah, so I think it's a massive opportunity, frankly, and so I do want to say first, though, that there's a lot of different groups doing really interesting and good work as it relates to agriculture and agriculture innovation. So the Emertech Fund is what Libro has decided to invest in, and we've agreed to invest $2 million in the fund. It's a $45 million fund is the initial sort of size of the group, and it's hoping to reach 60 million by the time it kind of goes live. It was started by Connexus Credit Union in Saskatchewan, and I know the CEO there very well. We've known each other for a long time. I would say similar values, similar target market. They're involved themselves in agriculture, and they created a venture capital arm a couple of years ago, sort of with the same purpose of what we are thinking about. How do we help small business? They stood up a fund a year and a bit ago around technology startups in Saskatchewan. But because of their passion for agriculture, they were of the view that what Canada needs, and not just Saskatchewan, but Canada, is a pan-Canadian venture capital fund to support innovation that is both agriculture and technology, and that intersection of agriculture and technology that will come together for agriculture in the future. And so it hits our sweet spot. We think it makes a lot of sense. We agreed with the value proposition of the fund, that it is pretty capital intensive, and it's different than a Bay Street venture capital fund for individuals that actually might not know agriculture. So this fund, the Emertech Fund, is mostly funded by individuals or organizations like Libro that understand agriculture. They understand the challenges of agriculture. They understand sort of the life cycle of a crop season. They picked organizations that are sort of in the hotbed of agriculture across Canada. So certainly Southwestern Ontario is absolutely one of the better places, in my view, the best place to grow food in the country. Others will take exception with that, but certainly just biased because I live here. But they recognize the importance of this place and the importance of the prairies and the importance of other places in Canada to do this. And what they wanted was a fund that sort of crosses all of that. And so the people that are investing touch agriculture. They understand what agriculture is. They understand that agriculture is changing. They understand that innovation needs to take place in agriculture, and it's forward-looking. So it's not necessarily in the rearview mirror, and they understand that when there is innovation that takes place in agriculture, it would be really nice if it was grown here in Canada and is funded here in Canada and stays here in Canada, if that were to, hopefully eventually be true. And at the end of the day, it is a venture capital fund. So even though it's aligned with our pillars, we want to return from this fund. We want to get our money back and a profit at the end of the day. So it is still a venture capital fund with the same discipline that any venture capital fund would have for a return on investment.
Yeah, and we had the pleasure of I think Dave met Jordan at an event, and so we've been following Connexus and their cultivator incubator. A couple of years ago, when I was out in Regina, I dropped in. They're right on the campus of the University of Regina. Very hospitable, and shared a lot of their stories, and that helped us get RHA, some of those ideas going forward. So, and then you've got top talent like Sean O'Connor, running the Emerton Emertech Fund, and I think they're going to be really successful. I think it's important that they look across the all of Canada, because there's great technology here, and we just need a little bit of capital and then just lots of confidence to take our entrepreneurs globally. And I agree with you. We've got all the raw materials we need in Canada to really take advantage of some of these great global opportunities. So we're excited to be involved in that, and wish you guys great success with the Emertech Fund. Any other questions, Dave, or anything else we want to talk to Steve about?
I was just curious with the Emertech Fund, and it may be it's early stages, perhaps too early for this, but what type of organization would be an ideal candidate for that type of investment? What type of investment are they looking for?
Yeah, so I would say it is early days, David. So I do know they're looking at the fund itself is looking at portfolio investments now. They are looking for investments that is innovative, that does cross both agriculture and technology, and so that's pretty wide open. We've purposely asked to have a individual sit with the advisory committee, the investment committee, and so at Libro we are highly regulated, and it's not lost on me that we're highly regulated. So we need to firewall out sort of this investment that we make, so that our regulators don't get concerned. So it is a learning curve for us as well. So we understand traditional credit. When things are pretty safe, I will say that, and it bugs me sometimes that we see opportunities come along of individuals that have really good business ideas, but they're pre-revenue or just early revenue stage, and they don't qualify for credit from a traditional financial institution. And our regulators, really push us out of that space. So Emertech, RH Accelerator, some of these other funds that are created really, kind of fill that void. So we're looking to learn. Quite honestly, we're a curious organization. We're not afraid to take smart risks, we'd call them, and we're happy to partner with Connexus Credit Union, Connexus Venture Capital, the Cultivator, but specifically the Emertech Fund that's being stood up right now. And I'm absolutely convinced the people that are part of the Emertech Fund, are going to make quality decisions, and time will tell. Where we end up eventually, David. So I'm not answering your question. I do that sometimes, but time will tell.
No, yeah, I thought it might be a little early to get into the specifics, but I know some listeners might be interested in looking at the funds as more information.
Go to their website.
Go to the website.
Reach out to Sean.
Just a follow-up question. You mentioned working with the Connexus group, more as my own pure personal curiosity than anything else, but how cooperative are the credit unions with each other? There's obviously, do you see other credit unions as competition, or is it, competing with the big five, or, how do you see the relationship between other?
So I think that depends on where you are in the country, but I would say credit unions are absolutely more cooperative than with each other than our counterparts would be. So credit unions in Ontario have about an 8% market share. and that's increasing over time. I know our growth is pretty substantial. What we're managing right now. And I've been saying for years, if we compete with each other, then it was easier when we were at 5%. So let's use 5% instead of 8%, but we're at 8%. Let's not fight over the nickel. Let's fight over the 95% that's elsewhere, the 95 cents that's somewhere else. And I think we've been successful at that. So earlier today, for example, the leads of our human resources, group. So our EVP of HR, people and culture, we call Brian, is on a call with the largest credit unions in Ontario, similar counterparts, to talk about COVID and vaccination and vaccination policies in a desire to try to bring that all together so that we have one common policy across all the organizations. So things that you wouldn't normally think about, in cooperation, we absolutely want to share with our sister credit unions what works for us, what didn't work, where they might have competitive advantage that they're not thinking about, and we don't charge for that. It's helping each other, and if they're better off because of us, or we're better off because of them, we think it's a win for both. I think the DNA is just a little bit different. We like to make money. We like to compete. We like to provide value to our customers. We like to coach them to better success. But we'll just do it in a kind of a Canadian way, maybe.
Great comments there. I think we should maybe wind this up, but I'd like to give you the last word, Steve. Tell us the last few things about Libro that we should know about, and we'll give you the last word.
Well, I appreciate the platform to do that. I would just say Libro is here. We're open to everybody. It's not a closed society. We have 109,000 individuals out of 2 million that do business with us. There's lots of room to grow and do more. It's ironic to me that Libro doesn't grow for growth's sake. We grow because we believe we can have more impact in the communities we serve and the owners we serve. We call our customers owners because they actually own the company. And so that's the underlying reason that we believe we need to continue to grow. I think the brand is doing really well only because of the people of the place. And agriculture, not just for Libro, but for myself, is so important to this part of the world. And it will continue to be important to this part of the world as climate change happens, as we see different weather patterns. So I think we're in a really interesting spot as an organization, as a broader community. And I would just challenge everybody, but I feel like I'm probably preaching to the congregation in this case. The importance of food and local food accessibility is super important. And I'll just keep saying that and doing my best to bridge this urban-rural divide. So
that's great
for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, we're delighted to have you on here, and congrats on all your success with Libro and continued success into the future. So, thanks, Dave, for being part of the podcast again today. And I would like to thank all our listeners. You can find the podcast on the rhaccelerator.com website and on the other podcast platforms. And thanks, Steve and Dave, for attending. Bye for now.